Nomination coming forward will be for Treasury Secretary as well. Tim Geithner expected to leave perhaps before the debt ceiling debate takes place. Jack Lew, who's currently the Chief of Staff over at the White House, is the leading candidate. How would you vote on Lew?
You know, I would have to look at his record and listen to what he has to say. I'll tell you my view on any Treasury Secretary would be that I would want to hear some real proposals for growth. You know, in this whole debate about the fiscal cliff, we've been talking about taxes, we've been talking about spending. Noticeably absent from this equation has been growth. And the biggest economic problem of the last 4 years has been the dismal economic growth. Under Barack Obama, our economy has grown 1.5% a year for 4 years. That is less than half the historical average.
This gets into your whole idea of retooling the Republican Party under the heading of opportunity conservatism, which I'd like to get into in just a second. But do you share the distaste of Jack Lew that a lot of your Republican colleagues have over the way that he conducted himself during the debt ceiling debate of 2011? A lot of people said he was arrogant, impossible to work with, rigid.
Well, I will confess I wasn't up here during that debate, so he wasn't arrogant to me, but I had not dealt with the man. So I'll keep an open mind. And with any Treasury Secretary nominee, my view is going to be looking to the substance, and this is not supposed to be a popularity contest. This is about fixing the problems that are affecting millions of Americans. You know, people all over this country, I don't think they're interested in the political squabbles in the Capitol. They're interested in getting the economy going, getting jobs back, and that's where our focus needs to be.
So we've got a debt ceiling debate that's coming up again. You probably heard Mitch McConnell or heard of Mitch McConnell saying this morning, the revenue piece is done, no new taxes. Are you going to hold to that line, that the president will not get any more revenue, and the only thing that the president has to deal with here is spending cuts?
Well, I'm going to suggest a slight tweak to it.
Okay.
I am happy for there to be lots of new revenue. I'm not happy for there to be new taxes. The best avenue for new revenue is economic growth. If the economy is sputtering along at 1%, 1.5%, 2% GDP growth, tax revenues plummet, people hurt, people are out of jobs. If we get the economy up to the historical level, since World War II, the average has been 3.3%. In the fourth year of Reagan's presidency, our economy grew 7.2%. If we can get GDP growth up to 3, 4, 5%, that will be dramatically more revenue to pay off the deficit and debt. But the way to do it is through pro-growth policies, not new and additional taxes.
Senator, are you willing to risk default on our debt by taking this debt ceiling battle right to the limit?
No, and let me be very clear about this. I do not support default on the debt. We should never default on the debt. And the only players in Washington who are threatening default on the debt are President Barack Obama and Harry Reid. This is an issue, and earlier in this show you played the president threatening default. In any given month, federal tax revenues are approximately $200 billion a month. Interest on the debt is $30 to $40 billion a month. There is plenty of revenue to service the debt, and any responsible president would have stood at that podium and said, under any circumstances, whatever happens with the debt ceiling, we will always pay our debt. We will never default on the debt. And the reason the president isn't doing that is he's trying to scare people. He is trying to raise this specter of a financial apocalypse.
And we have left, Senator. I want to talk to you about the future of the Republican Party, because after what happened in November, a lot of people are talking about, wow, what do we need to do? Some people are saying, look at changing demographics in the country, more minorities. They traditionally vote Democratic. We've got to be more moderate. You wrote an op-ed piece in the Washington Post the other day that, no, you need to retrench conservative values and develop opportunity conservatism to try to help people live the American dream. Is that really the right way to go when you look at the changing demographics in the country?
I think it's exactly the right way to go. The reason I am a conservative is because conservative policies work and they improve opportunity. They are the avenue for climbing the economic dream. And what I have been talking about for many years is opportunity conservatism, that every policy should focus like a laser on easing the means of ascent up the economic ladder, that we should be championing the 47%, to take that now infamous comment. Look, the great thing about Americans don't want to be dependent on government. Dependency saps the spirit. It doesn't work. Americans want to stand on their own 2 feet, and the best way to do that is have policies that allow entrepreneurs and small businesses to thrive and to create jobs and advance the American dream.
Senator, you said famously a couple of times, we don't have time to play the actual sound, but so many politicians get elected promising to go up to Capitol Hill, cut spending, live conservative values, then turn into spineless jellyfish. What's to prevent you from becoming a spineless jellyfish here in the climate of Washington?
Well, you know, the great thing about the election we just went through is that we saw hundreds of thousands of grassroots activists across Texas and across the nation stand up against a mountain of money, mountains of attacks. We weren't supposed to win this race. And so I feel like I'm coming into office surrounded by and lifted up by those grassroots conservatives who I am happy to stand with over and over again.
But as Mitch McConnell proved the other day, governing requires compromise, particularly when you're in the minority in the Senate. A Democratic president just got reelected for another 4 years. So how, you know, it's one thing to criticize Washington when you're a candidate, but when you get here, you've got to govern. How do you do that?
Well, I think the fiscal cliff deal was a lousy deal. But I think moving forward with the debt ceiling, I think those who believe in limited spending and in solving the debt and not bankrupting our kids have the advantage in the negotiation on the debt ceiling. If we can stand strong and insist on, number one, structural reforms to fix the problems, and number two, pro-growth policies so we can grow the economy, we can get jobs back, we can get people back to work, I think we can win that debate and win that argument. I don't think what Washington needs is more compromise. I think what Washington needs is more common sense and more principle.